News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline. My guest this evening is Professor Channa Jayasumana, who is, of course, the Member of Parliament from the Anuradhapura district for the SLPP. Very good evening, Professor, and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Faraz. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for agreeing to be on the program. Now, much of the country is talking about this issue about the National Health Service, mainly to do with substandard medical products and the shortage of medical products and so on. What do you have to say? Isn't it something that your party, the political party, would actually pay close attention to, because this is a subject that you're dealing with the members of the public who are also your voters. What do you have to say? Why is this in such a situation?
Yes, Faraz. Actually, this is a matter of concern. Not only me, all the parliamentarians should be focused to this issue, because this is directly dealing with the life of the people of this country. Now I am representing Nidahasa group, the fraction of the SLPP. Now we are independent group of members, 13 members of us are sitting in the opposition. And we really believe that this is a matter of great interest at this juncture. And we need to act rapidly on this particular devices without a registration. This particular clause is used or misused by the ministry and minister at the moment. Overwhelming majority of the pharmaceuticals and medical devices imported to the country over the last 5-6 months are emergency purchases. Bypasses the usual regulatory procedure. That is the root cause of this current crisis.
What is difficult to understand and to fathom, really, is that your party, the SLPP, has a majority in parliament. And after what happened during the protest, the so-called Aragale movement and so on, where the people expressed their absolute displeasure at the administration, one would have thought that the party would be tight on proper governance, and because obviously they have to fight the displeasure of the people that was on Daragale, and then you find themselves soon after that they're indulging in these sort of dodgy practices which are impacting on the very lives of the people, some of whom probably voted for your party. That's the annoying part. Why is the party so lax in making sure that the regulations, the rule of the land, is actually complied with?
Yeah, actually, the government party and the government, they couldn't place the order in the country. That's why we are no longer with the government. We are no longer with the party. The main reason for that is they were unable to maintain the law and order of the country. Rather than a government, it was like almost like family business. What we have observed during the last 2.5 years' time is there were no government in the country. Instead of that, there was a family ruler come. It's almost like a company which rules by a family. That's why, as an academic, we couldn't agree with what was happening there. And ultimately, we decided to leave the government during the Aragale period, because some of the decisions taken by the government and the leaders were not democratic. Mm-hmm. They were not listening to us. They were not happy to any criticism put forward by us. I agree with you, Faraz. The law and order of the country was not maintained, not implemented properly because of the poor planning and poor vision of the leaders.
And Professor Jayasumana, could you tell me who are the other 13? Are you all members of parliament?
Yes, we all are 13 members of the parliament. Professor GLP is honorable member from the nationalist, Dalasala Peruma, Professor Jarita Herat, and Dr. Upul Galapati, Dr. Tilak Rajapaksha, Professor Gunapala Ratnasekara, lawyer Udayana Kirindikoda, lawyer Vasanta Yapa Bandar, senior lawyer Dilan Pereira. Academics, in simple terms, academics and professionals are in our
and
yeah.
Looking forward, and obviously, although there is a sort of a seeming stability, it is, as we all know, this is only a sort of a manufactured film, if you like, because Sri Lanka is not paying back its foreign debt. We are still negotiating with our various lenders. And of course, the other matter is that the ISBs, the bulk of the ISBs were taken during the Yahapalana administration, and not before that or after. So when we look at all these things, especially the economic challenges that we are facing and the frustration of the people that the elections, especially look at the provincial elections, it's over 5 years in the making. And there's no move, apparently, from the majority parliamentarians to actually enforce this. And the people are continuously frustrated. Then you couple that with these arrests being made at one time under the PTA and so on. So politically, where will you align yourself? Because after all, you're 13 members. Will you form or be part of a wider national alliance, an opposition alliance?
Yes, actually, we are discussing this matter with the other political parties of the opposition. We are working closely with the whole group of the opposition. And as you pointed out correctly, our attempt is to formulate a broader opposition alliance which can face to the situation, because people, they no longer believe politicians, they no longer believe political parties. They are frustrated. And we need to continue the democratic pathway of this country. We need to act wisely, and we need to maintain our good democratic pathway in a proper manner in coming 4-5 years. Unless it would be difficult to politicians as well as to the political parties to deal with the people, because they no longer believe us. It is obvious. It's Aragale is the result of that. How Aragale emerged because of people, they didn't believe the politicians and the way they behave. And actually, we are acting as a center to coordinate all opposition political groups at this junction.
So, Professor Jayasumana, when you look at Sri Lanka, they say that the foundation for truth really is responsibility, and the other way around too. But unfortunately, as we've seen in Sri Lanka, our governance has been on a foundation of lies, and more lies, and corruption has been endemic. It has been unashamedly endemic. There are said to be companies and individuals who are Sri Lankans who hold monies outside of our country. Some people say that it could even be half as much as what Sri Lanka owes internationally. Yes. And so this seems to be a very, very poor state of affairs. We have things like, the central bank, we have people looking at exchange control, but there's no implementation. We have the bribery commission, where several cases have been brought forward, knowing very well that it will fail at court level when instead of 3 commissioners signing, only 1 signs. What's the whole point? We had a minister who was brought up to court, and he was charged, even though he wasn't, as a minister, he wasn't in charge of the central bank. These charges are sort of almost frivolous and without any meaning, and a complete waste of our judiciary's time. So all of these suggest that it is very poor governance. What will you all do? Will you back up a plan to have a political donations act and so on?
Paros, actually, We have enough laws, acts. The thing is, those are not properly implemented. These cunning top-level politicians and their circles, they are cunning enough to manipulate and manage all these processes. That's how they escape through the new normal procedures. If these existing laws, acts are implemented properly, then the issue will be sorted out. There will be no need of new commissions, new laws, and new law enforcement authorities, because all these entities are directly or indirectly governed or handled by the top level politicians. That's why, although we have enough evidence, although we have enough facts, the law and order is not properly implemented. As you correctly pointed out, we know if you take the chief whip of the parliament in the government side, he is found guilty by Sri Lankan court, but still he is the chief whip of the parliament. What nonsense is this? If at least the usual procedures and the law should be implemented to the parliamentarian first. How can we ask other people, other businessmen to act according to the constitution or the law if the parliamentarian are not behaving in proper manner? That's the issue here. There are laws, there are acts, but those are not implemented. That is the thing, because the legal system is manipulated by a small circle of people.
We also have, what's your stand on these independent commissions? Because surely they're not really independent. We have moves, for example, by the government to introduce some sort of broadcasting commission, regulatory commission. But before we do that, we would need to have broadcasting regulations so that all media will know what the regulations are. In Britain, we have that. We have Ofcom, but we have proper regulations. So any person in the media, broadcasting, radio, TV, they know what they can do and what they can't do. Not to appoint your friends and supporters without a tenure of security of the job. So obviously, when you have no security of tenure and you're being appointed the chairman of some commission, you are going to be at the beck and call of the appointing authority. And that, to me, doesn't sound to be very democratic at all.
Yes, of course. In the Sri Lankan system, we don't have any minimum qualification to elect to the parliament, at least. No. Even a person who is not having a school education can enter the parliament and can become a cabinet minister in this country. People will vote for their financial power, their organizing power, their family power. And those politicians, they are trying to introduce these regulations. Regulation for pharmaceuticals, regulation for media. What nonsense is this? How do they regulate other subject areas without they are being regulated? First of all, the political system of this country should be regulated. Unless if the top level is not properly regulated for us, then how can we expect the regulation of other bodies? These all so-called independent bodies and commissions there are no independency at all. All these regulatory bodies, independent commissions are directly and indirectly controlled by the executive of the country. That is the way it behaves. It's a drama. It's almost a drama. What we are seeing here.
It's a drama. Let's see after the break, in which we take a peek at this evening's headlines. Let's see where this drama will take Sri Lanka and its people. Let's meet you after this short break for the headlines.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
Farmers protest opposite Agriculture Minister's residence, demanding water for their crops. Will Sri Lankan authorities resort to emergency power purchasing? Jathika Janabalavegia revealed details of a massive unsettled electricity bill. Government will only adhere to instructions and orders of the Parliament in the debt optimization program, says President.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
And welcome back to Newsline. I'm in conversation with Professor Channa Jayasumana from the SLPP, from the Anuradhapura district. And they now sit as a group of 13 members called the Nidahas section of their party. Professor, obviously Sri Lanka needs fixing, and it needs fixing big time, pretty fast. Tell me more about the moves to form a opposition alliance, because clearly, as we saw when President Sirisena was elected, we needed a united opposition. And although you all have different sort of ideologies and so on, how close are you all to forming this opposition alliance?
Now we are working together for common goal. First, to get these elections. As you are well aware, we are ahead of local governing bodies election and the provincial council election. Without conducting election in a country, how can we maintain the democracy? So to conduct elections, to demand elections, we are in an agreement, we are in a consensus that we need to work as a common front to force government to conduct at least these two elections. Last week there was a meeting called by the His Excellency the President to discuss about the 13th Amendment, full implementation of the 13th Amendment of the Constitution, but without conducting provincial council elections, no point of talking about full implementation or half implementation. There are no properly elected members for the provincial councils to devolve power. How can someone devolve power without having properly elected members for the provincial councils?
So that's what I mean. That's what I mean about this circus. It's like the bribery commission taking action, but only one commissioner signs the papers, when you know that you need 3 people. So this is the same thing. You know, you're saying, well, we'll devolve power, full implementation and all that. It's all nonsense because the provincial council isn't in place.
Absolutely right. Now, in addition to the members of parliament, there are no any properly elected political authorities in the country at this juncture. There are no local government bodies. There are no local no provincial councils. All provincial councils are governed by the governor, who is appointed by the executive, who is appointed by the president. And in addition to that, local government bodies are controlled through a secretary. The secretary is also appointed by the minister of the provincial bodies, and that particular minister is also appointed by the president. Ultimately, all these powers and the bodies are governed, controlled by one person. So we are not practicing democracy. First, we have a challenge to win the democracy of this country. For that particular goal, without arguing hair splitting, without going to the hair splitting argument on our ideologies, we are in a consensus to fight for the elections. Our first goal is to demand election, conduct local government elections first, as early as possible, then provincial councils. Then we can think about the presidential election.
And Professor, what do you say, Professor Channa, when people counter the quest to have elections by saying, oh, well, you know, do you want the country to get into a worse state than it is economically? What's your argument against that then, when some people say, well, we can't afford to have elections because we're in such a bad position? What do you say about that?
In fact, we are in a honeymoon period. Now we are not paying our international debts. We are not paying our ISBs. That's why we have a relaxed period until we repay our debts. We'll have some relief period. This will be a very short-term relief, probably another couple of months, probably towards the end of this year. People are understanding this issue, what's going on with the financial situation of the country. Our argument is, how can they maintain such a big cabinet and state ministers if they don't have money? If you see now, the government is quite stable in the financial field because of we are not paying the debt. The amount needed to conduct an election is comparatively very low. If you see the expenditures by the government by this juncture, election is nothing. It's a total expenditure of the government of half day expenditure of the government to conduct an election. How can president talk about the early presidential election if there are no money? He can put the same logic, same argument which he used to postpone the local government election. If they don't have the money, they can postpone the presidential election too. You can't have money for the presidential election, but not for the local government bodies. It's illogical. We can't accept that argument at all. First, they need to conduct the local government bodies. The nominations have already been called, and the dates were fixed for the election, but it was not conducted. If government have a genuine need to practice the democracy in the island, they need to conduct the local government election.
And Professor Channa, tell me, in Parliament, surely, most of these people must be having a conscience, surely. And are you telling me that the majority of these people don't have a conscience and are only keen on holding on to whatever power that they have and let the people continue to suffer? Surely, why is there these people with the conscience, with the backbone? Why can't they say enough is enough and join the opposition or give an ultimatum and say, do you know what, if you don't fix this, we are going to join the opposition and we will dethrone you?
Because they are getting continuous benefits from the government. I don't know whether you believe, Faros, last week we got the message that governing members of the parliament, they got bar permits. Each and every member of the parliament in the governing side, they got a free bar permit, and they are selling the bar permit for millions of rupees. Country is in a verge of the economic disaster. All the fixed ratings are very downgraded, but still the members of the government side, they are getting all these benefits. How can they be? I don't know why people are tolerating this, giving bar permits to the governing members of the parliament. What nonsense at this junction. But still, it is being practiced. So they are getting these benefits. So while they are getting all these benefits, they will not act or they will not follow the will of the people. It won't happen. We tried that 13 of us, the professional, at least the professionals of the educated group of the SLPP, which we backed and we paid a lot of things to bring Gotabaya Rajapaksa to the power. But he couldn't manage the situation at all. His IQ was not enough to control the country. It was the main reason behind all these collapse, as far as I can, in my analysis, I believe his IQ was not enough to control the government. That was the main reason for this collapse. And still, these members in the government side, they are not analyzing the situation even. It is immaterial for them. What is happening there in the country, what is happening for the people, what is happening in the village level. If they are getting their benefit, that's all. If they can continue their 5-year period, and if there is a way to re-elect to the parliament next time, what is happening to the country, what is happening to the people, it's immaterial for them. So we can't accept. I don't think these people in the government side, they will form some understanding with the opposition, and they will help the opposition to form a new government. But we can do is we need to organize people and explain what is going on in the parliament and in the country. And with the getting of support of these people, we need to go for an early election. Whatever the election, it doesn't matter. We need an election to show the people's will.
Thank you, Professor Channa. As we come to the end of our time this evening, I wanted to ask you this question. We ask the most odd questions on this program, but I believe that I ask it on behalf of our viewers, on behalf of the people. And News First is always people's first. So I'd like to ask you this question. Is there any particular person who is fit to lead Sri Lanka into our next phase, to rid this country of corruption, to instill democracy and the interests of the people first? Is there one name that you may want to say?
Only one. There are a couple of young, good, energetic politicians in the opposition. I think they need to come forward at this juncture, and they need to assure people that they are in a position to control the government. They are getting the international support, and they have enough IQ, they have enough capabilities to control the country. Yes, I do believe there are good young politicians in the country. They need to come forward, they need to organize people, and they need to show to the people that they are quite confident in taking the next government. Yes, I do believe there are good people.
There are good people. When do you think they'll emerge?
They have been emerged. They have been emerged. If you closely observe the situation in the country, yes, I think this crisis situation provides a good fertile land them to emerge. They have been emerged.
And when do you think this sort of subservience that people have to people like undoubtedly Mahinda Rajapaksa, for example, they're almost subservient. But surely Mahinda Rajapaksa has had his time. He's done what he can. And it's time, really, for people like him and others of his vintage to hang up the boots and give this country over to younger people, people like you, to go forward, people like Sajid Premadasa and so on and so forth. Younger people who have more energy and a different vision from the past. When do you think this will happen?
For us, actually, now we need to accept that the Rajapaksa era is over. No, the nationalistic camp of the country, they no longer believe on the Rajapaksa camp. Instead of that, we need to find out good people. We need to bring good young politicians forward who have a good holistic view of the country and about the people. As soon as an election is declared, whether it's a provincial council election or presidential election or a general election, I think these young, energetic leaders will show their colors. So it's a matter of time. They are being emerged, and I hope to the people each and every time where people get a chance, they did their best over the last 5-6 decades in the country. The thing is, we haven't offered good opportunities to people to select. If we give opportunities them to select good people, yes, definitely they will select. They are quite intelligent rather than the politicians. They will take the choices. They will take the best decision. They will create good young leaders to the country within coming years.
Thank you very much, Professor Channa Jayasumana, Member of Parliament from the SLPP Nidas Group from the Anuradhapura District. Thank you for being on Newsline. And now it's time for the primetime news. Take care. Have a great evening as much as you can. And God bless you all.
Shakti TV, along with the Department of Sports in the Northern